Hi, happy Thursday. I hope everybody's feeling alright. I've had another one of those days and nights where it always happens when the kids go away, just sleep at the dad's, and I just get pulled a certain way always, and there's always sort of similar feels with my pulls. Obviously, we've all got our own little interests. And so I've been pulled to look into a little bit more about copper. And this first came into my awareness because of the rhesus negatives being copper-blooded or copper-based as opposed to iron-based. So I found it really interesting, that difference, and how I felt like it was, when I had these downloads, when I awakened. I hate using these labels, but you know what I mean. It was about electricity and magnets as well, and I didn't have a fucking clue about any of this. And I didn't particularly enjoy science, I think, I don't know, it was whatever. I've always been pretty underwhelmed with most things. Until this last few years when I'm like, whoa, I'm amazed by a plant and a fucking leaf these days. It's amazing. So anyway, this is going to be a bit of a ramble, by the way, because I've just got a lot on my mind. And this is one of those videos where I'm going to support myself to just ponder. So, disclaimer, I don't know what I'm saying most of the time. I seem to have little pieces of things fit together in my own mind, but portraying them to anybody else doesn't make sense. But at the same time, everybody grabs their own little pieces of info from whatever they consume, and they fit it together to fit their own paradigm. Oof, I was just watching a bird, and they just flap their wings stationary. It's a grey, horrible day today, cloud everywhere, just grey, cover, and I'm feeling quite heightened, if I'm honest, quite charged today. So anyway, let me hope and see, if I can get this shit off my chest. So, like I said, I didn't really know anything of use until the last few years. So, I'm not claiming to be expert on anything, I'm just rambling. Right. So the first thing that I found, being sort of guided to look into a year ago, was how magnets were used for healing in the emotion code, which is a practice of moving energy out of your body, around your body, and out of your body. I didn't look too much into this. This is what I do. I never stick to things. So anyway, I found that really interesting. And then again, I'm going back a year now, so I can't really remember, but I found out that there were, there's 2 places in America, I think, and there's some other ones across the world that house magnets of massive proportions, just super strong, super strength magnets. And I can't remember what they were claiming it was for, but it didn't seem to, add up to these magnets that needed to be in these protective things. So I was thinking to myself, because this was at the time when I was looking at the sky and everything seemed just completely hyperdimensional and wild. And I was thinking to myself, how it must have something to do with manipulating energy. And so then, obviously then you can look into sort of like dark agendas, or you can imagine that it could be something there to potentially protect. Anyway, enough about that bollocks. So in the last couple of hours, I've been looking into magnets and how they react with blood, and the connection to copper. So I watched an experiment. I'm going to try and concentrate now. I'm listening to the fucking music again, right. Maybe I should just read my notes. Okay, so normal blood, Rh positive blood, which is iron based, is the ions in the hemoglobin, and it's repelled by a magnet essentially. So it doesn't interfere. And apparently it's to do with unpaired electrons in in deoxygenated blood, and then when it's oxygenated, there's no unpaired electrons. So it creates this diamagnetic reaction, which means it's repelled by the magnet. Well, I've not seen any experiments with magnets done with rhesus negative copper-based blood, but I've seen some magnet and copper experiments this morning. And wow, it was so interesting. So the way I'm going to try and get through this in some structured way again, but like I'm feeling that, like, you know, innately and backed up by things that I've looked at, that the copper in the blood is a conductor of electricity. It's a conduit, and that's why we always fucking blow light bulbs out and have electrical interferences and things like that. So if we imagine that the universe is an electric universe, as you know, science is sort of suggesting now, I think electromagnetic is more appropriate. And so it's really hard to string your thoughts together, isn't it? Basically, it's to do with oxygenated or deoxygenated blood and the magnetic properties, and how they interact, how electromagnetic fields interact with us and our body and everything. If everything has a electromagnetic field, a toroidal field, which from what I've seen, it seems to make much more sense, including the earth, you know, like I'm more of a flat earther, I guess, but I can conceptualise spheres and how it works within things if I imagine, you know, the plane of Earth and the field around it creating the sphere, you know. So, again, that's not what this video is about, whatever. I've just watched a few more flat earth things, and I've tried to keep it on the fucking back burner, because I understand that the matter is not the matter, you know, it doesn't make a difference. It's just, sometimes I'm like, fucking hell, you know, like, it's becoming very sort of compelling, like, more experiments and evidence, and because we've got better technology, you know, with cameras and drones and lasers and all this, you know, obviously, things are hotting up, and I find it really interesting that some people can't, you know, look into it without this huge sort of huge barrier, you know. So I find the psychology of it all more interesting and people's reactions to it. Same with the Mandela effect and any type of conspiratorial chat, you know. What I'm more interested in is you know, the reactions when you know, when it's discussed or whatnot. That's the most interesting thing to me. It's people's reactions. So anyway, I might have to do this again because I've been babbling already. So basically, I watched some experiments with copper and super strong magnets, and copper makes magnets levitate. And you know, it was crazy. I'm going to try and find some of the experiments I watched, and I'll put them down below in case anybody's interested, because again, I've got a very short amount of time, so I skim through a lot of things sometimes, so I'm not always sponging up all the info that I need. Somebody else, you know, might be good at that. So yeah, so if you get a copper plate, a big slab of copper, and you put a magnet on top of the copper plate and one underneath, the big magnet on top of the copper levitates and moves, and you don't get this reaction from anything else. So they say that you know, copper is not magnetic, but it's a conduit of electricity. So electrons spin. Yeah. So this sort of. I'm going to put the experiments down because I didn't write it all down and I'm not making sense, but there were laws and names of science for these reactions. Electrons spin in a circle clockwise, resist and generate a magnetic field. So the copper reacts with electricity in a way that causes resistance. So they were saying that they're looking into using it, you know, for train brakes and things. So many interesting experiments. Like if you have a big bit of copper there and you swing a magnet towards it, it literally just stops. This copper creates a force field, its own electromagnetic field, which repels and keeps it away. So it's resistance to change. It doesn't attract or repel the copper, so it's not magnetic, but it has its own force field, which creates resistance. So, and copper coils are found in everything, and this is what causes the magnet to resist as well, like the drawing in of the energy through the copper wire. And oh God, you know, I mean, it ties into so many different things. As like power plants is saying, you know, essentially all they're doing to look into, you know, electricity is finding ways of putting magnets through coils of wire, you know, so copper is one that works. And there's experiments and little demonstrations on YouTube where you can get a light bulb that's obviously it's not plugged into a circuit, wrap a copper wire around it, and with a magnet the light will switch on. So it creates energy. Yeah, fucking hell. So electrical inductance in copper levitate magnets. I found it interesting because, you know, when you're dreaming and stuff and you think you can fly and you are flying and you've got this sort of weightlessness feel. And, you know, with a comparison with, you know, people's collective consciousness and how it manifests in superhero movies and things like that. And I think, I don't watch films or TV or anything, but I know that, I think it was, Captain America's shield is an electromagnetic thing, I think, and then obviously levitation and things, and I've heard somebody who's rhesus negative say that they've actually been able to levitate before. Like, I've not seen proof of it, and who knows, and so then it was making me think about the rapture and the idea that people, you know, are pulled up, we're rising somehow, and I was thinking, is it to do with the literal density of us, you know? Not that I think we'll be pulled up to another dimension, but are we able to sort of access it? One day will we be able to levitate or fly, you know? Because the universe seems to be of an electromagnetic sort of consistency, and so if we can use magnets and copper to make free energy, you know, I'm sure it's been done for years and has probably been hidden from us again. So, a flow of electrons in copper, force field motion dampening, this is what it does. Free energy, electricity generator magnet with copper. And then again, you know, this is self-indulgent shit, but the idea that you know, Jesus might have been RH negative, and Moses, and you know, the fact that they could walk on water or part the waters, and, you know, is that to do with manipulating energy, you know? copper wire with magnets equals electricity. And then, you know, I was just thinking about, like, I've got my orgonite pyramid here, and it's got a copper coil at the top, and then when you look into the Tartaria, and sometimes I watch Martin Luddike, I think is his name, flat earth British guy, and he's well into all this, and he skims over some really important information sometimes because he's got his own sort of, you know, feels about whatever. So I don't really tune in much anymore, but it's all about, you know, these energy weapons that they used to have back in the day, you know, in these sort of great civilizations that could have potentially been hidden from our history. And, you know, the thing that always resonated with me when watching this was the copper coils, you know, or the copper pipes, the organs in the church, the coil, the snake, the kundalini, the everything, you know. It's it all seems to be related, but so yeah, right, just some other interesting things about copper that I found out this morning from a great channel that I'm gonna link down below. First time I found it, and she's into you know, alchemy and herbal alchemy and witchcraft and things like that, so I'm super interested. And Rosie, if you're watching this, you'll definitely want to check her channel out, so I'll link it below. So copper helps charge your blood. Sesame seeds are high in copper. I've heard this on 2 things in the last 12 hours to get your sesame seeds down, yeah. And then this lady made it, you know, she was saying it was interesting with the, you know, the open sesame sort of magic word, you know, open sesame. So sesame's high in copper. Anyway, copper coil serpent. Statue of Liberty is copper, totem of copper, which is interesting as well. So, so I'm going to talk about water in a little bit, but I've not digested all this information, but I know that a couple of you guys who watch these videos are well into this, so maybe something here will be of interest. But again, this is just about copper, that interests me. So, inside a herbal alchemy book and a crystal book, there was mention of a stone called a pink shell chalcedony, I think, a raw stone, which and I think, Rosie, this is specifically for you, I don't know, you know, with the endometriosis, if you want to look into things a bit more. But anyway, so what the property of this raw stone does, this pink shell raw stone, chalcedony, I think it's called. Anyway, it enhances the simulation of copper into the body, and it detoxifies the liver and removes inflammation of female sexual organs to heal. So, I don't know, have a look into that, maybe, who knows, fingers crossed. Copper is associated with quartz crystal, as is gold and silver as well, but, and in a book of magic, emeralds are always set in silver or copper, and so copper, properties or references of copper. The energy of copper is receptive, the planet is Venus, the element is water, the deities are Aphrodite, amongst others. The associated stones are emeralds and quartz crystals, and the powers are energy direction, healing, luck, love, protection, money, and in magical ritual lore, copper is linked with the divine, Queen of Heaven, Goddess of Venus. This is from ancient Mesopotamian times, which apparently is when the rhesus negative showed up, you know, in the Sumerian times. So magical uses, copper conducts electricity, so copper wands to direct energy. Copper to stimulate healing, because it apparently it balances the body's polarities, you know, the energies within. Copper healing and copper jewellery. Apparently, if you're right-handed, wear your copper on your opposite side, and if you're left-handed, wear the copper on the other side. But apparently the healing properties are massive. Again, I've not looked into this much, but I know there's a ton of videos as well on the copper conspiracy, and you know, just everything sort of surrounding that, how we're you know, deficient in copper, and they will, you know, they'll have it the other way around. So again, I don't know if this is just for rhesus negatives, you know, the information on copper, to help them, or if it helps. I can imagine that it would only help a rhesus positive person charge the blood as well with electrons. So it's like, you know, these sort of, these different ways of alchemy, I guess, of energy manipulation or whatever. It's like, if they've been used against us forever, you know, let's use them for our own benefits now. Like, I'm just starting to get into crystals and gemstones, and, you know, and I really feel the benefit of things like this. Like, I'll sit and I hold this for a long time, and I really feel the benefit. I feel the benefit of certain copper jewellery, you know, certain crystals. And again, even if it is all just placebo and it's all just, you need to believe it for it to work, just fucking believe it, because it works, you know. So I'm just saying all this shit just so we can sort of connect some more sort of things. But yeah, I was just thinking that, because I watched something else that was really interesting as well, and it was talking about how scientists are now telling us that they've found a planet 9, but that how it's probably, you know, Nibiru or planet 10 or planet X, you know, that's been spoken about for however long. But they don't want to call it that because they're conspiracy theories, and Pluto disappeared or something, so now, you know, this is planet 9 when we had 9 before. But basically, the sort of idea that this planet that's making its way towards our solar system can disrupt the magnetosphere of Earth, or the solar system. And let's have a look. So that this big planet could, you know, disrupt the magnetic North Pole, maybe flip poles or whatever, you know, on its electrical path or orbit. Also, interstellar plasma winds, photon belt kicking off, high gamma radiation, which could interact with our brainwaves. I'm going to link this video down below because it was really interesting. I've just found this channel recently, and like me, I think she's like trying to non-committally sort of imagine causes of the Mandela effect and things like that, and she's way smarter than me, and she's looked into this stuff, so I'll put her thing down below. But basically, how the magnetosphere is now scattered, our magnetic field is scattered. So she was surmising that cosmic energies, you know, are just affecting our brainwaves and causing things like the Mandela effect or changes in matter, you know. So it's all super exciting, isn't it? But, and then I watched a little bit again on plasma, because obviously this is a big part to it, which I'm not clued up on really. But it's, you know, it's all to do with that. And so plasma is magnetic. And they were saying you can use magnets to put out fire. Oxygen is paramagnetic, so it repels it. And then I watched something else with a magnet where a plasma vortex was appearing in a magnetic field. So I was thinking about, you know, the new photos of black holes or dark matter or whatever. It looked like a plasma vortex that this guy recreated with an experiment. And plasma is electrically charged and is deflected by magnetic fields. So it's possible to divert the flow by approaching a magnet to it. So, yeah, I don't know if anyone's scientist, you know, put these pieces together and let's create some incredible new technology that we can do cheaply and freely to heal ourselves, give ourselves free energy or whatever, you know. Plasma, blood, copper, magnets, the electromagnetic universe, it all seems to be connected. And so another thing that I watched, and I may as well put his bit down as well, was this guy who's been, his channel's called Soul Voice, and maybe just check it out yourself, but his thing's been water, and he's come to the conclusion after researching for what looks like years on his channel that spiral water is the key, and he's talking about copper vessels, you know, copper vessels, and how you should put your distilled water into a copper vessel and you should swirl it anti-clockwise and not clockwise. And the spiral water is the key and the anti-clockwise is the key. And always anti-clockwise. And he goes into, you know, get a blender, take the clockwise blade off it, you know, a cheap one, and do it for 3 or 5 minutes, and that is how you get this elixir, this complete structured, incredible water, which is free, because I know there's a lot of these people now promoting these, you know, these distilling or these water machines. I think some of them, I don't know, electrolyte this, blah, 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 blah. But, you know, they're thousands or hundreds of pounds for these things. And some people have tried different things, found different things along their research. So, yeah, apparently in this guy's eyes, and it feels right to me, you know, the Fibonacci sequence is the base of everything in the fractal universe, and it's a key, and obviously that's anti-clockwise, isn't it? And so centripetal force, this is what I'm going to look into now. Explosion is counterclockwise, which we see everywhere. Implosion makes the vortex, which is the Fibonacci sequence, anti-clockwise. So I don't know if there's something there to be said. I'm going to be sort of meandering all this, and obviously I've got shitloads of things to look into where my thoughts are at the moment. So, oh, did you see that flying around? So it's exciting, but I've not got much time now. I've got to go and do normal shit. So I hope everybody has a good bloody day, and yeah, that's it. I just wanted to babble again. I could just be regurgitating bullshit, but you know, it feels right to me. So anyway, any thoughts on that, anybody? If not, have a great day. Bye.